Today is May the 5th, 2023. It is Friday. This afternoon, I went into my normal prayers and I had someone with me. I had them reading uh, the book of Psalms with me as I went into prayer. And I have gone into this kind of warfare many times. My warfare is not like most people's. My warfare is only talking to God, only talking in such a way that, uh, that of course the enemy hears. But last night I was given two things that the Lord showed me, that there are two events coming up, and they were timed by the Lord. And so the timing angels were at work, and I saw them. And that let me know that these two events were taking place right then and there. So when I got up this morning and the Lord led me to call my friend who usually reads the Bible to me, and wherever God leads, the Spirit of God comes down and she reads Psalms as I'm talking to Yahweh. I'm talking to the Lord. And when the presence of God comes so powerfully, it's my war room. And I have been in this kind of prayer before, and every time I have ever been in it, victories have happened. No matter who it is, no matter what it is, no matter where it is, no matter how it is, no matter what is needed, because of the Spirit of God coming down and witnessing and being there, praying through me, even by myself. I prayed this way probably for, many years without anybody ever with me. And it is just now that he is incorporating other people to pray with me. And there's a reason for that. This increases their faith. Many times the Lord will use someone to heal you that you wouldn't think would be the one God wants to use, but instantly you'll get that healing. Whereas you couldn't get it anywhere else because God wants to increase the faith of that person. Well, anyway, back to the war room. It was phenomenal to me because he said, mark this in a book. There are two events going on, and those two things are going to lead to catapult the timing of what God's going to do in moving to more events. And he said, because I have been blessed to be able to see these angels that are only released during the time they're supposed to be released. He said, there's coming a time where he's going to move so greatly that just before it all happens, I'm going to see the angels just move like you wouldn't believe. But during this time, he's doing a lot of, oh my goodness, a lot of protection for his people, a lot of realization for his people, a lot of help for his people, a lot of things are on the move. And the last time I saw these two kinds of angels, someone had given me enough to buy this house, had wired into my account $300,000 because I needed a deliverance. I needed the power to get me out of the home that was totally falling apart, and there was no way to mend it. There was nothing that we could do to change it, and we would have dumped a lot of money into it and still come out with the same problem. Maybe 2 years later, maybe 5 years later, it would fall apart again. So when I saw this, those two angels came to me and said, you don't have to do anything. We are here directly from the throne of God to do what you need. And as far as people robbing you, troubling you, doing certain things, don't concern yourself about it. We are here to work it all out for you. Well, The one angel was a very tall angel, and he was standing above me, like up here. And I was sitting down, and the other two were sitting right next to me. And they talked in one voice. As they spoke, they all spoke with one voice, that we are here from the throne of God uh, to do his will in your life, and we're going to change things. Now, this is before this miracle of us moving from that terrible place to here. And that triggered everything, because probably about a half an hour before those three angels showed up, or maybe even closer to that, maybe a few minutes, I don't know, I can't remember. I saw the taller angel running head on towards me. He had a smaller sword in his hand. Usually they have the real big sword, but this sword was probably about and he's running like this. I mean, straight towards me. And when he came right into my life, the impact of it, you could feel it. It was like that. And when that happened, almost for 1 second, you were tempted to be afraid, because when you're dealing with angels, most of the flesh become afraid. And when it went like that, now I remember it happened right after that. I went and sat down, and right there in front of this computer, in front of my little place where I make all my videos in 200 miles away from here. And I remember the night before, uh, right where my computer is, I remember the glow of the glory of God. I saw that, see, then I saw the angel, and then they came, and then they spoke to me. And I was thinking about getting a lawyer, because there are people who have been either harassing me, and they're not allowed to do that legally, and they've been stealing from me. They've been doing all sorts of things from me. And what they said to me was, God the Father said, don't concern yourself. We will take care of it all. I don't know how. I don't know when. I knew nothing. I only knew that 2 hours after they showed up, this woman called, and she asked me what I needed. I had no idea she had the power to give me a new home. I had nothing. I only know that she told me that the Lord used me to change her life, and she wanted to help me. So that was the impact of my life, where the angel came and impacted my life. And everything moved so fast that you would almost be tempted to be frightened, because where am I going to go? What, you want me out of here? Where am I going to move? What do you want me to do? And God kept reassuring me, I have a hold of it. I will take care of it. I will pick out your house. I know everything you like. I know all about it. And he definitely said, I will allow you to go on the internet, and I want you to look at different houses so that you could sit before me and tell me what you prefer, what you like. Why you like this, whatever you wanted. I want you to look at them, not to buy those houses, but to practically put your order in. So I did. And I searched out so many houses, so many different things. And then I said, okay, Lord, he said, write it down. And I did. I made my vision plain. I wrote down every single thing he told me to write down that I liked and wanted. Because he said, this is going to perhaps be for the rest of my life, which, at the age of 80, how many years do you have left? So at one point he said, by choice, I may move from here, but I may stay here. So that's going to be up to me. But anyway, so he took my my writings when I told him what I wanted, and it was amazing to me because I said, "Okay, now, Lord, where do you want me to live? I have no idea." And he said to me, "Whatever you do, don't move out of Florida. I called you years ago in 1999 to Florida. And because of that, it is not my will for you to move out of the state of Florida, because my husband and I were thinking about going to another state. And God said, don't go, because you will suffer terribly because you're out of my will." And he says, so stay within the state of Florida. He didn't care where. I said, but Lord, I still don't know where to go. So he said, well, listen to your husband. Your husband will tell you where I want you to go, because I will lay it on his heart. And he did. Uh, my husband suddenly, not knowing anything, because he was checking out the crime in the areas, whatever, all these different things, taxes, everything. And he was checking all that out. And he said to me, Marion, how about if we try Lake City? So I says, sure. I says, wow, I've heard some good things about Lake City. There's a lot of Christians there or whatever, because some of my friends were telling me that, and they didn't have any idea what was happening with my husband. And so when we got to the place where we decided to look in Lake City, we had somebody go, and maybe we made a 200-mile trip to take a look at maybe 8 homes, brand new homes a day, which for us was a lot of work, because you're going on sites that are all plowed up and they're all brand new, and you're walking into these big houses, and you're going through all of that. And I remembered that the Lord told me that the moment you walk through the doors of the house, you'll know it's the one for you. And that's how you will know where I want you. So I thought, oh, okay, I accept that. So we went house after house. We made 2 trips. That was 400 miles that we went to look at least 8 houses each time. And this was practically the last house that I looked at. And when I walked through the doors of the house, immediately the light was so powerful in the house. Everything was light. You can see everything white and light. And I love it, because where I lived all my life was always dark. Not enough light coming through the curtains, not enough light coming through. And I love light. So when I walked through the doors of the house and I saw only the kitchen, I didn't even see all of it. I knew. Told my husband, this one's for me. So my husband walked through the house and he said, you know what, Marion? He says, this house is perfect. He says, it's not too big and it's not too little, because we looked at all kinds of houses that had family rooms and another room for this. And all we needed was a three bedroom home. That's all we wanted, so that we could have some if anybody comes and visits us. So what happened was we paid so little for the house out on the water. And the Lord told me what my house was worth, because he said, living on that water, that view, people are going to come and they are going to offer you this big amount of money. And so, and they did. The unbelievable thing is probably after 3 views, uh, after 3 people came, the third person bought it for the asking price, which is usually unheard of, because I knew a lot of people were selling their homes, the kind of troubles they were running into. And it was amazing, because this house, they had it on the market brand new, never been lived in, just been opened up to the public, and it had a price on it. And so at the same time, this one released the sell of it. This one over here, the Lord told me, offer them less and they'll take it. And I did. He says, that's what it's worth. They took it. And they immediately took it. So both houses, the one that was sold, was on the market for maybe a little more than 24 hours. The other one was on the market for 24 hours. And both of these things went just like that. It was all taken care of. Just like God said. Just like he said, it was all worked out. It was all taken care of. Now somebody else come along and says, well, why didn't you give your money to the poor? Well, you know what? If somebody gives you money to buy a certain thing, you better buy it. Because you can't take a penny of that money and do anything else with it. So if somebody comes up to me and says, well, I'm going to give you this $10 and I want you to use it in your ministry. That's one thing. Most of the people don't do that to me. What they do is they say, look, I know you have needs. I know that you've been through a struggle. Here's this amount of money. Use it, well, however you choose. Whatever you want to do with it, it's for you. You take it and do what you want. And most of my money I never used for myself. I always did something with it. But this time, because it was specified that I had to buy a home with it, that it was money for a house, I could not take a penny of it and dishonor the person that gave it to me or dishonor God that sent it to me. So a million people could judge me, and there's just nothing you could do about it because I was obedient to God. Well, as I came here, I hear this probably every day. I heard it even today. A woman come by, and a lot of people walk through here. They use this beautiful uh, road to do their walking. And one young lady come by, and she said, "You know, I believe your house. I saw them when they built it, and I thought, oh my, that's the most beautiful house on the block." Then I had a neighbor from over here come, and the little girl was 12, and she says, oh my, I watched this when they built it, and I thought this was the most beautiful house on the block. Now, I'm telling you, to me, I agree with them. I love the house. But there's a beautiful one there, a beautiful one there, a beautiful one there, and a beautiful one there. So the best thing that could happen to you is to have neighbors that don't trash the property, that don't, that they are able to take care of their lawn and do all that stuff. So you live in a nice neighborhood, and with that, in which I do, and the people. You can feel the atmosphere in the spirit. Nobody is judging me. Nobody's condemning me. Nobody is talking about me. It, like the other place that I was in was just a horrible place of oppression and gossip and lies. And I know of several people who are right now moving out of there for the same reason. They said they can't even believe what has happened to the place. And I found out that I think uh, there's a railroad that went right straight through that tiny town we lived in, and there was a derailment there. And that's where they had a tomato plant and Tropicana oranges. And while I lived there, of course, I loved where I lived. So anyway, I'm only telling you that if you trust God for your decisions, you say, well, how do I know it's God talking to me? Well, God will always find a way to reach you if you believe and you let him speak to you about things. He let me know he wanted me here for a reason. He said, your house is going to be your ministry, your church. Well, the first thing you think of is, hey, you know what? I'm not going to move pews into this house, Lord. I never wanted a building for a church. I said, Lord, you and I both know I pastored for a while. I don't want to be a pastor because I don't believe that's my calling. And the Lord said, I'm taking care of this. You don't have to pastor anybody. You're not going to have to go through all of that. Just remember, this is your church. This room is your prayer room. This is your war room. And boy, I've been in war rooms where every single prayer, bam, 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 was done, because nothing is ever done without prayer. And when God taught me how to pray, I can remember going to a church. There was a man there from Israel, I think a pastor, that I never met before. And he was coming to speak and everything else. And everybody was gathering at the altar to pray. And I stood behind him to support his prayer. And he suddenly turned around and he looked at me and he said this, you have a tremendous arsenal in prayer for the Lord. I've had others turn around and say, oh, power of God is so powerful in you. You need to be up here. Come up here and pray. Well, you see, I don't listen to people. If the pastor don't invite me, I don't go nowhere. I stay right where I'm at and I'll pray here. Because I don't need to lay hands on anybody. All I got to do is lift my hand. All I've got to do is pray. All I've got to do is pray right here. I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to go anywhere. But this has happened to me time and time again, where God called me to preach in another church, and the Spirit of God come down, and they come up to me, and at a distance, I mean, maybe 10 or 15 feet, and they would say, we just can't. The presence, the power of God is so powerful. We can't come any closer. The heat, the fire is just so hot. We just can't do it. And I told them the truth. I said, well, you give this message to your pastor. One of you is a devil. They're a witch. And they've been praying against his power to be able to preach the truth and take care of it. In the name of Jesus Christ, as a prophet, this is the message I gave you. And the Lord cleaned that whole thing up. I mean, instantly. And I've given this testimony before because I told you, I don't go to church seeking God. I have God. I go to church not really realizing it for a while, and I take him with me. So when I just lift up my hands like this to worship him, boom, the power comes down on me and hits everybody else. I don't ask him for that. It's an anointing that he gave me. And they'll come running and they'll tell me they never felt anything like it. They've never. But you see, there are people who are out there that because I'm a woman, and they're real jealous and they're real envious. They're like what the scribes and Pharisees must have felt with Jesus Christ when he was able to do miracles and they had none. He was able to do everything and they couldn't. He had unusual wisdom and they didn't have it. But they were saying they had it. And they were preaching and teaching and doing all the things and money changers with all the money. And so, and I've seen prophets cry. Why? Why did you show a nobody and you didn't show me? I'm your prophet. Well, you want to know the truth. He only had prophetic utterance. He was not a prophet. Because if he was a prophet, he would have known what to do. He would have known and understood what was going on. People who have God know and understand without him even saying a word. Second they hear it, the Holy Spirit speaks to them. And I said, I know this is God. How many people, since I've been on the internet, have told me that? Now, I'm telling you, I didn't ask God to do none of this. All I did was ask God to give me the wisdom that I needed to do the job he called me to do. That's all. Hey, give me the message they need so that I can give me the words, because I have no idea what I'm going to say. So if somebody comes along and says, well, your message is over here and it's over there and it's all over the place. And they've done that. And they criticize and try to pull you down without insulting you, because they're aware that there are other people listening to their comments. And they know their name is there, and they don't want everybody to know how nasty they can be. So they do it hidden. Uh, well, she might as well be making cookies because it's all jumbled. And I think to myself, and I pray for this man today, because in his head, man is up here, way above. I've seen fathers teach their sons to look down on people because they're taller. Well, that's the way some of them do, a man. And I have to hold this. I have to be like this. And they're down there. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you, not for me. Because you see, I'm nothing. And when you have to get to that position in your head and heart and look at me and think that way of me, you have a real problem, because God knows I claim to be nobody and I claim to be nothing. And I'm only here for others. And I don't care what you think or feel. And I don't care. I only mention it for your sake. Your sake. It's for you that I say this. And I understand that there are men that will not ever back up to a woman. They will never humble themselves. They won't, I think all of us need to be in a place where we could receive the truth even from a little babe. When God shows us lessons in life, even with children, we should be able to receive. But these people won't receive from nobody, especially if it's a woman. This is sad. Ego is, ooh. Man is, ooh. And I'm not saying this to tear them down or to hurt them. I'm saying this in the hopes that they will get on their knees and do what I did. I had to humble myself in order to submit to many men. I had to humble myself and say, Lord, these people know what they're talking about, and I don't want to be found in error. And God taught me and told me, I took you aside, I sanctified you, I worked with you for many years so that you could come out, and these people who think they're something that are not, they can't rip and tear you apart like they did my other prophets. They can't call you names that are going to have an impact on your life and cause you to be so discouraged that you will fall. You will fall into the hands of Satan and destroy you, destroy your walk, destroy everything. Because he's done it so many times before, when somebody has walked through the church, into the church, and they felt that they had far more than them, and it frightened them. So therefore they had to get rid of it, which is the exact same spirit that the left is working with right now. They have it covered. You won't it's witchcraft, pure witchcraft. Of which they won't let this one get above them. They won't let that one get above. This one will never have. They all have to be here. Every woman here. You stay here. And this is how you pray in your war room. With one difference. You're ineffective. And the reason why you're ineffective is you're in the wrong pew. You're doing the wrong thing. Because you see, you can't deliver God up to Satan. You can't take a woman of God or a man of God who has the flesh dead and deliver them up to Satan for the death of the flesh. It's already been done. Because you weren't there doesn't mean it didn't happen. Because you didn't see it doesn't. And this is what is wrong with many people in the church. They'll see you coming, and if they didn't watch you give your life for 20 or 30 years, you're nothing to them. I've seen that one woman I told you that pastored that church. She had 350 elderly people there that had gone out all over the world and preached the gospel. And they were like in their 80s and 90s, and they were tired. They wanted to retire. So they came into the church and she got angry. She said, I hate those people. I heard her say this. They won't do nothing. I can't get them to work in the food bank. We want this community to know that we are here. We want to be in the paper with the food bank and everybody to know we are the church that is opening up the food bank. If you can't see how awful that is, I don't know what else to tell you, because nobody should be wanting anybody to know they're here. They should be wanting everybody to know that Jesus came and Jesus is here. So what I am really working on, and I've told you many, many times, is to get that humble heart. Whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, if you have this much of love for God, this much, you'll be able to see the truth, and the truth will set you free. You'll be able to go before God and say, Lord, is she talking about me? Have I done this? Is this the way I'm really feeling? Is this the way? Because I told you before, conviction power does not come when God hammers you and says, you stay there. God don't do that. He doesn't do that at all. We are all his children. And what he does is he will gently speak to you with the love and compassion you never gave to anybody else. Like one woman wrote and said, God's love, he makes it so real to me even though I don't deserve it. Of course he does. He knows in our human flesh we deserve nothing. Absolutely nothing. God does these miracles in my life so I could come and tell you about it, so you can understand that if you get into that Bible and you search for Jesus Christ and nobody else, if you give to Jesus Christ, if you do what he asks you to do, if you walk with him and talk with him and ask him for an understanding of who he is and what he is all about, and how to let that love flow through you, and how to deny what you want, deny what you think, deny what you remember, deny what you've been taught. Just usher that out. That's the old man. And let him come in and show you the way. That's all this ministry is about. This ministry is not about you coming into my life and sitting there on that internet with your comments to encourage me, which I think are great, but that's not the end of it. The truth of the matter is I don't need anybody's support, because God affirms me so much. And, anybody, if you ever heated up water, in microwave water, and you put something in it, you see it'll foam up about that high because it's so hot. So because of the eyesight problem I had, and I told you I made I couldn't see on the white cup the line of the water. So I pull the cup out with the water, and I take the tea bag and I put it in to the water, forgetting that that will happen. So as the tea bag goes in, everything goes whoosh, like that, and my fingers are in that water. And it happened so fast, and I looked, and I pulled my finger out, and there was no damage, nothing. But the tea bag, it really sunk and foamed up and everything, and then settled down. I'm used to that. I live that way. In a time in my life that I needed him so bad, and nobody could help me. I used to, as a young Christian, I used to think, why didn't the pastor help me? Why didn't people in the church help me? All they ever did was gossip about me and hate me and mistreat me. They saw me coming. They saw a person with a huge amount of problems. They felt all the curses on my life. They didn't feel my heart. My heart was clean. They felt all of that around my life because I didn't know how to break them or stop them at the time. They saw the harassment of Satan, and they felt that if they touched me, it would come upon them. So it frightened them. So what they did is they did what is only natural for them to do. They knew they couldn't help me, And so they condemned me that I could never be helped. Because if they couldn't help me and they've got God, surely I could never get it anywhere else. There was no doctor who could help me, no psychiatrist, no psychologist. Nobody could help me. I was that bad. And there I was, where God came into my life and helped me. And when He put me under the shadow of His wing and held me close to Him and loved on me, words cannot describe, if you've never been loved your whole life and mistreated all of your life, what that meant. So when I heard that voice that spoke in pure love and would say, Marion, this is not of me. Don't go there. This is me. Go here. And that's how He talked to me every day, all day long. Marion, you're thinking this. It's not good for you. Don't think that. Look, this is my word. Think it. Put that on your mind and heart. Think this way. Well, because He's so powerful, once He said it, I didn't have to repeat it. I didn't have to force it into me. I didn't have to anything. The power of His words to me accomplished it all. And so He just drew me in. And like I told you, He showed me, I think it was a couple years before all this happened where I found God. My half wolf dog was eating a litter of rabbits. And he went in there and picked them up, threw them up in the air and chomped them. And they were gone. And I ran up to him to stop him because it was natural for him to do that. He was a half wolf dog. The wolf in him was a hunter. So the last rabbit, he threw up in the air and he put his mouth on it like that. And I reached my hand in and grabbed that rabbit out of his mouth. He would never hurt me. He let me pull that rabbit out of his mouth. And that rabbit was this small. I mean, if you could see, that small. That's how tiny it was. I have a picture of it. And so I didn't know what to feed it. And God gave me wisdom to put a certain amount of lettuce and everything else and emulsify it and put it in a little eyedropper and stick it in the rabbit's mouth. And I did. And I stick it, he bit on it like this, terrified, because he was wild. And I put it in there and he clenched on it. But you could see, because I could force it into him, you could see this little Adam's apple going, clunk, 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 clunk. He was forced to eat it. And the Lord said to me, Marion, you remember that little rabbit? He said, that was you. I had to force feed you. You were so terrified of everything. You were so much out of your mind from all the trauma and all the horrible things that you saw and you felt that I had to calm you down and I had to feed you. And so He took me, God the Father Himself took me for 3 years and worked with me like that. And He took me and one day He introduced me to His Son, Jesus Christ. And that is when the whole Bible opened up to me. That is when the Holy Spirit just come down upon me and just drew me to Jesus Christ with such a tremendous love. I could not get enough of Him. When I realized how He died for me, how He saved me, when I understood that the name that I had heard most of my life and didn't even know who He was, most of the time people may have talked about Him, I had no idea. And when I found out who He was and His love, I could not get enough of it. And because of that, I was able to hear His voice. He manifested Himself to me. He appeared as Jesus Christ. He appeared and showed me things and revealed things to me. And it was amazing. He did that. But from that time on, I could always hear His voice. because I was an emergency. So when you ask me that you want to be that way with God, I can't give that to you. I can pray that you get as close as you are able to. To you, that would be the best there is, because that's you. You're special to God. He loves you far beyond what you know. And if you look for what I have, you're in the wrong place. You've got to look for what He has for you. And I know of a young man that I really think the world of this young man. He's 32 years old, and he told me he wanted to hear from God. And I told him how, just like I've told all of you, go into your room, pray. And he began to do that. And he did that every single night. He would go to work. He would come home. He would feed his parents, because that was what he'd do. And then he would go directly into his room and stay in the Bible and in prayer till he fell asleep. And he did this every day, not realizing what he was doing, not understanding that he was really hearing the voice of God. For it was God who was leading him into the Word. It was God who was talking to him through the Word. And almost a year passed. And before that, he called me and he told me, he said, something really strange happened to me. He says, the power of God with fire surged through my whole body. Oh, praise your holy name, Lord. He got the baptism of the Holy Spirit. And this is what I said to him. I said, don't you realize no man could do what you've been doing every single day, and he still does this today, without him changing, without the heart and mind being renewed, without that God has already spoken to you daily. He has more wisdom than you could imagine, more understanding as a young man than you could even imagine. And it's phenomenal. But look what he did. He did what I did. I went to him and ran to him every chance I got. My husband would go to work, and I would fall to my knees. Oh God, I have moments I could be with you. I have this many hours I could walk and talk with you. Oh God, I'm so happy. I didn't pretend that. I didn't force that. I was just so much in love with him that I could not bear to be without him. And I could barely even want to exist without him. But I knew I had to live a life. I had to take care of this and face my responsibilities. But the very moment we were alone together, oh my goodness, it was so phenomenal and so wonderful, because he manifested every time. The love was so great, and still is, because he's with me 24/7, every moment. There's not a single thought that I can think that he isn't there. There's not a single memory I can remember that he isn't there. There isn't a question that I could have that he isn't there. There is not a prayer I could pray that he doesn't hear. So when I tell you I go into the prayer war room, believe you me, something is going to happen. Something is going to take place, because what I'm looking for is for God to fulfill the intervention that he told me that's coming. But what I'm looking for is for you to be ready, for you to recognize him when he comes. Because you see, recognizing God is so important. You could miss what he wants for you just by not recognizing him and not seeking him and not looking for him. And I know all those things. And so that's why I give it to you. God has me give you everything on a silver platter. Just hand it. It's free. It's free. It doesn't cost you a penny. He died to give it to you. So when he gave it to me, I give it to you. I'm not asking you for money for it. I am telling you, I'm not asking you for anything. I'm not even asking you to support me. I'm not even asking you to send me a good comment that'll encourage me, because I don't need encouraged even. And I know some of you, oh, you feel so bad if somebody criticizes me or somebody. And I've seen you've stood up for me. There's some people where they actually tell the other person, you ought to be ashamed of yourself and stuff. But you know what? God says in his word, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, and every tongue that rises up against me, God himself will condemn. And that is true for you, and that is true for me. And on your level of understanding, when you reach that place that it is the most you could be, quit looking at me. Quit looking at what I said I have. Quit looking at and look at where you're supposed to go. Find your niche in life with God. Find the place that you belong. Now, this young man, he found his place where he belonged. He started coming in contact with people, and everybody knew this guy is different than anybody they had ever met. You know why? The fullness of Jesus is inside of there. And when you seek God like he did, as sincerely and true, to hear from him, he'd heard from him over and over and didn't know it. I'm just thankful and grateful. I consider him one of my sons. And that is a phenomenal thing, because I only had one child and she passed away. But yet I have a lot of spiritual children that grow up under these teachings. So, however, whatever you can do. I saw somebody, and I couldn't get it back because my computer's giving me all kinds of things. So I want to say this. Uh, this guy was saying, Marion, words mean nothing. We want to see action. Well, the only action I have as an 80-year-old woman and who has nothing to give is my words, because Jesus is the word and my words have power. So if you call it garbage, then go ahead, be my guest. That is your problem, not mine. If you miss out on it, hey, have at it. Like I said, have at it. I don't worry or concern myself about it a bit. So it's like pests. Well, not even that. A fly is more of a pest than these people are, because I don't pay any attention to them. At least a fly or, something like a wasp or anything like that, they'll have power to do something. But so I'll back them. But these, I don't even bother. Why should I? God's not telling me to. God told me, hey, I'll take care of it. Don't you concern yourself. Because he told me, he said, if you write this book, I'll take care of the rest. So when I go to him and I say, Lord, you told me all I have to do is put these videos out. You'll give me the words and you'll do the rest. It has nothing to do with me. You told me if I write these books, you will do the rest. And I'm trusting in you to do the rest. I don't know how you're going to do it. That's like trying to tell you how to heal, how to deliver, where to go, what to do. I'm not God. I'm not going to do none of that with you. But know this. Every one of you, I pray you find what this young man found. I pray that God is able to come upon you in such a way that everyone will know that you are different, that you will not compromise your soul for anybody or anything, that you live for Jesus Christ. Because right now on this earth, nobody can tell the difference between the Christian and the demon. Nobody. Because they all live, walk, talk, and act and do the same things. And we're called to be different. And I hope and pray this has helped you.